pounds on me, so I got that fire on me. In the desert heat, I'm burning marijuana, trying to fill bags with green and blue cheese. In the city, the only thing that matters is the money, and that's the only thing I want, honey. I live the life that's crummy, so I want my gold like a day sunny. Once upon a time. Baby, I got more than a couple pounds on me, so I got that fire on me. In the desert heat, I'm burning marijuana, trying to fill bags with green and blue cheese. In the city, the only thing that matters is the money, and that's the only thing I want, honey. I live the life that's crummy, so I want my gold like a day sunny. Once upon a time.
By Tom Willard. And so let's get this started. And yeah, because we do have others, different Buffalo Soldier books, but we'll start off with this one. Yeah, let me see if I want to start off with this one. So, we got a couple of Buffalo Soldier books. We got this one. We got this one. The Voices of Buffalo Soldiers. And we got Buffalo Soldiers Alaska. And since we have so many Buffalo Soldiers, we'll have a Buffalo section. Buffalo Soldier section. Buffalo Soldiers in California, and oh yeah, this one was Alaska. Buffalo Soldiers in Alaska. I already showed this one off, I think, but Buffalo Soldiers in Alaska, that was an interesting one. And Buffalo Soldiers, the history, legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers who fought in the U.S. Army during the Indian Wars. The Indian Wars, my guys. So yeah. So we'll keep this started. Whoo. Going in. Alright, so let's get it started. Alright. To start off with the forward, but there is a quote. A country with no regard for its past will do little worth remembering in the future. Abraham Lincoln. In 1862, the 1st Regiment of South Carolina Volunteers was formed under the command of Colonel T. W. Higginson of Massachusetts. This regiment, composed of former slaves willing to fight for the Union, was the first all-Negro military unit in the history of the United States. Though composed of Negroes, it was led by white officers and never saw combat during the Civil War. The war would seem numerous of Negro units in the unit forces, and they would prove their valor and dedication on many battlefields. Fort Wagner, South Carolina, Milliken's Bend, Louisiana, Point Lookout, Maryland, Fort Pillow, Tennessee, and Cold Harbor, and a bloody crater at Petersburg, Virginia, are a few of the most notable of their 449 military engagements against the Confederacy. More than 1,800,000 Negroes served with the Union during the Civil War. more than 33,000 gave their lives. With the end of the Civil War, the Union Army was faced with two problems: providing troops to garrison the South during reconstructions and pacifying the western frontier, locked in a vicious Indian war, while currently holding back the onslaught of bandits and revolutionaries pillaging along the vast Mexican border. Man, alright. Yeah, I want to read one of these passages over that had my attention. That had me thinking. Alright, this regiment, composed of former slaves willing to fight for the Union, was the first all-Negro military unit in the history of the United States to composed of Negroes. It was led by white officers and never sought combat during the Civil War. The first regiment. The war would see numbers of other Negro units in the Union forces, and they would prove their valor and dedication on the many battlefields. Okay, I see you. So, as my understanding, the 1st Regiment of the South Carolina didn't see combat during the Civil War, but after that, there was numerous of units of Negroes that was willing to fight for their freedom, and those were the ones that fought on the battlefields. The Fort Wagner, South Carolina, Milliken, Benz, Louisiana, Point Lookout, Maryland, Fort Pillow, Tennessee, and Cold Harbor and the Bloody Crater of the Petersburg, Virginia are a few of the most notable of the 449 military engagements against the Confederacy. More than 1,800,000 Negroes served within the unit during the Civil War. Now, that's a lot, you know what I'm saying? More than 33,000 gave their lives. Okay, so, man, so yes, black slaves fought for their freedom in the Civil War, during the Civil War. So, I'm going to read this passage over after that one, then we can continue the new one, the newer stuff I haven't read yet. Alright. With the end of the Civil War, the Union Army was faced with two problems: providing troops to garrison the South during Reconstruction and the pacifying the western frontier. So basically, they had to clear out the western area of the United States. Locked in a vicious Indian war. Indian tribes were in war. Probably trying to keep their slaves as well, while concurrently holding back the onslaught of bandits, revolutionaries pillaging along the vast Mexican border. On July 28, 1866, the United States Congress, realizing the value of the Negro soldier, thank you, but fearing the repercussions should Negro troops be introduced into the South during Reconstruction, passed an act authorizing the creation of 6 regiments of Negro troops, 4 regiments of infantry, and 2 regiments of cavalry. Upon receiving the authorization, General Ulysses S. Grant ordered General F. Philip Sheridan, Military Division of the Gulf commanding, and General William T. Sherman, Military Division of the Missouri commanding, to organize the 2 cavalry regiments and to deploy them to the west for immediate service on the frontier. These 3 generals determined that the Negro soldiers would be led by white officers. The 2 cavalry regiments were designated the 9th Cavalry Regiment, colored. Alright. They All right, two cavalry regiments were designated the Ninth Cavalry. The two cavalry regiments were designated the Ninth Cavalry Regiment, colored with organizational headquarters at the New Orleans, Louisiana, under command of Colonel Edward Hatch, and the 10th Cavalry Regiment, colored. So these two were colored regiments. All right, let me continue with the organizational headquarters at 4th Leavenworth, Kansas, under the command of Colonel Benjamin H. Garrison. Garrison, a favorite of both Sherman and Favorite both of Sherman and Sherman, had led the famous Garrison raid, which struck more than 600 miles behind the Confederate lines to Vicksburg, Mississippi. During the raid, Garrison Regiment had disrupted telegraph communication, destroyed railroad lines, and burned vital bridges, as well as wreaked havoc upon the general population and created panic with the penetration into territory that the South believed was safe from Union attack. Colonel Garrison was confident that the 10th Cavalry, who were to be developed alongside the 7th Cavalry under the command of Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, could provide security on the Western Plains and the Indian Territory. Colonel Hatch, who had served with Garrison during the Civil War and took part in the Garrison raid, was confident his 9th Cavalry could provide security for the settlers of West Texas. This service differed significantly from the service in the Civil War, when Negro troops fought for their personal freedom. The troops of the 9th and 10th Cavalries would fight for the freedom and security of white settlers, who treated the troopers with disdain and hatred, and even murdered them for sport. These gallant troopers were called the Buffalo Soldiers, a name given by the Cheyenne, who compared their dark, weary hair with that buffalo, their central creature of Cheyenne lives and culture. The Spanish-American War brought about another colorful page in the history of the Negro soldier, as it offered the first opportunity for Negro military units to fight alongside their white comrades on foreign soil. At Kettle Ridge and San Juan Hill, the 9th and 10th Cavalries made the famous charge alongside Colonel Theodore Roosevelt Rough Riders. Additional several Negroes volunteers were scrotum members of the Rough Riders, but it is Buffalo soldiers standing in iron stirrups with drawn sabre at full charge who began a long tradition that continues through the generation into the sands of the Persian Gulf, into the annals of American history. Nice. I wanted to read a passage over that got my attention. So, this part got me. These gallant troopers were called the Buffalo Soldiers, a name given by the Cheyenne, who compared their dark, weary hair with that buffalo, the central creature of the Cheyenne lives and culture. So, I guess the Cheyenne tribe named the Buffalo Soldiers because of the hair, the wiry hair, you know what I'm saying? Wiry hair, you know what I'm saying, that they had compared to the buffalo. If you ever saw a buffalo, you know what I'm saying, you'll understand. But I believe I read all this. The Spanish-American War brought another colorful page in the Negro of the history. Yep, offered their first opportunity for Negro military units to fight along their white commanders on foreign soil. And yeah, we did read this. So we are now entering the monumentum 1992 Fort Leavenworth. Okay. On July 25th, 1992, thousands of Americans gathered at Fort Leavenworth amid a sea of blue cavalry hats and tunics. Children ran and played on the grass and steps while old soldiers lounged on the benches sharing decades of memories, some good, some bad, most were real. They stood on hallowed ground where ancestral and spiritual deciments mingled with ghosts from the past. They had come to dedicate a monument to the memory of men who sacrificed themselves in order that others might enjoy what they fought so valiantly to build and protect a free nation. They were called the Buffalo Soldiers. One only had to One only had to see the monument to understand that the price they paid upon entering the Buffalo Soldiers Monument, which rises above the once mosquito-infested site where the 10th Cavalry established its first headquarters on western frontier. The visitors passed a three-flag rostrum where Old Glory fluttered between the original colors of the 9th and 10th Cavalries, a path wound toward what appealed to be descending. Feature 8, the upper circle, a natural pond surrounded by prairie grass and wildflowers. To the stairs that led to the lower elevated circle, a reflecting pond between the two ponds. A mounted Negro troop sat posed on his horse and a pedestal of hand-cut stones, his Spencer rifle gripped in one hand, the reins of his horse gripped in the other, his Kossuth hat pushed back at the brim. Branches surrounded the reflecting ponds, allowing the visitors a place to sit and enter into the solitude and dignity of history. Suddenly, a jolt of excitement threaded through the crowd as a tall man dressed in an army uniform approached the podium. He was recognized at once and greeted applause that was long, loud, but polite. General Colin Powell, the highest-ranking African-American in history of the United States military, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stepped in the podium, waved to the crowd, and then began to read from the farewell speech of the Colonel Benjamin H. Garrison to his troops of the 10th Cavalry Regiment. The officer and establishment have cheerfully endured many hardships and provisions, and in the midst of great danger steadfastly maintained the most gallant and zealous devotions to duty, and they may well be proud of the record made and rest assured that the hard work undergone in the accomplishments of self-improvement and various service to country cannot fail sooner or later to meet with due recognition and reward to Benjamin H. Garrison, Colonel 10th Cavalry. Powell went on, and now, 104 years later, on July 25, 1992, his dreams of recognition and reward has finally come true, and so has my dream. Beginning with the Buffalo Soldiers in 1866, African Americans would henceforth always be in uniform, challenging the consents of a nation, posing the question on how could they allow to defend the cause of freedom, to defend the nation, if they themselves were be to deny the benefits of being Americans. The great liberator Frederick Douglass made the same point. Douglass said, "Once let the black man get upon his person the brass letters of the U.S., let him get an eagle on his buttons and a musket on his shoulders and a bullet on his pocket, and there is no power on earth which can deny him his citizenship in the United States of America." So look at this statue. Look at him. Imagine him in his coat of blue, on his horse, a soldier of the nation, eagle on his buttons, cross, sabres on his canteen, a rifle on his hand, a pistol on his hip, courageous iron will. He was very bit the soldier that his white brother was. He showed that the theory of inequality must be wrong. He could not be denied his right. It might take time. It did take time, but he knew that in the end he could not be denied. The Buffalo Soldiers were not the only ones in this struggle. The 24th and 25th Infantry Regiment in the 92nd and 93rd Infantry Divisions, and the high-flying Tuskegee Airmen that parachuted the triple necklace of our Navy's Golden 13th and the Montfort Point Marines, and the thousands of the brave black Americans have gone in harm's way of their country since the days of the Buffalo Soldier, always moving forward and upon step-by-step, sacrifice by sacrifice. But we are not here today to criticize an American of 150 years ago, but to rejoice that we live in a country that has permitted and spiritually designated a Buffalo Soldier to stand before you today at the first African American chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff. And I am deeply mindful of the debt I owe to those who went before me. I climb on their backs. I will never forget their service and their sacrifice. And I challenge every young person today, don't forget their service and sacrifice. Don't forget our service and sacrifice. Climb on our backs to be eagles. And so the powerful purpose of this monument must be to motivate us to keep struggling until all Americans have an equal seat to our national table, until all Americans enjoy every opportunity to excel, every chance to achieve their dreams, limited only by their imagination and their own ability. We will leave this beautiful monument site today knowing that caring Americans made a modest dream come true. But let us also leave, my friends, determined that the most important dream in the world, the American dream of progress and fulfill equality, has gained today with his monument a new vision, a new strength, a new tomorrow. Prologue 1866. The segment major. All right. So we'll remember we stepped off on this prologue, but that was it, man. Just from the beginning, introduction to that. That was good. So I think we should leave it off on there, and I will continue reading this, and we'll start off some more Buffalo Soldiers. So we'll just keep on reading these Buffalo Soldier books. And we do have the Tuskegee Airmen. We got the Tuskegee Airmen too as well. So we'll be reading all of this stuff. And we'll finish Frederick Douglass. That too as well. And another section we'll get to read the complete tales of Uncle Rumpus, Brer Rabbit. And this is Brer Rabbit, and this is a Mitra Blue episode series. I hope y'all enjoy.